Welcome to the Empire of the Sun. This is part 4 of the Wisdom series, and so I will pick up where I left off. And we will actually start this time with number 27 because I realized in the last video I skipped it. So we'll start with that one and then we'll do our normal 12. So number 27 says, wisdom is the ability to know the truth of things and to effectively use that knowledge for beneficial outcomes. And so I wrote this one as I was trying to understand what wisdom actually is and how to describe wisdom in a way that would make sense to people and make sense to myself. Because like I said, I never actually necessarily intended to share these writings. I figured maybe my children would see them at some point and it would help them. But it was mostly just to get my thoughts out. But this one, I really wanted to define wisdom and try to do so in a way that would be helpful so that it could be used. And so wisdom is the ability to know the truth of things and to effectively use that knowledge for beneficial outcomes. I actually don't want to dive too deeply into this one because the very last one for today, the last piece of wisdom that I wrote down, actually will go into this a bit more. So I'll kind of just leave that one, but I will briefly say that wisdom involves knowledge. You have to be able to know what the truth is. And then it's not just knowledge, but it's the ability to act on that knowledge, because it's not wise to have knowledge and not use it. That's not wisdom. And so if you have the knowledge, then to have complete wisdom, you would also want to use that knowledge effectively for beneficial outcomes. And so that's how I would define wisdom in like a brief statement, but I actually defined it again later on, and I'll go into more depth then. So that was number 27. That's the one that was skipped from last video. And now we will pick up where we left off with number 37. All right, number 37. Hope is important. If you hold on to hope in life, you'll have a reason to try. The more you try, the more you succeed. And so this one was written because I went through a period of my life where I had started to view hope as a bad thing. I actually started to believe that hope was not a good thing. It was actually a bad thing. And the reason why is because I was going through very difficult times and my perception on things was skewed. And that's not all of it. I had reasons behind it. And one reason behind it was that I noticed how every single time that I had hoped in something, I did not get what I had hoped for. Now, this was a result and a consequence of things that I was doing wrong in my life, and me thinking that hope was a bad thing was almost like a lashing out of bitterness in that sense. And just a distorted view. So I was looking at the end result and not the cause. But the point remains that I started to view hope as a trap because I started to see how every time I hoped in something, the thing that I hoped for would not come to pass. And because it did not come to pass, it caused me to get upset, become bitter, become angry, and it led to worse outcomes than if I would not have hoped at all. And so I started to think that hope was just a trap and that we should not hope in anything. And so at this point I was trying, as I started to come out of this, belief system and these ideas, I started to try to define hope and understand why it's important, because the Bible speaks clearly about this. The Bible clearly says that hope is important. Hope is valuable. And so I try to define why that is and try to understand why that is. And so what I came to was this statement here, which is that hope is important. And if you hold on to hope in life, you will have a reason to try. And the more you try, the more you succeed. And I think that's really the crux of it. If you have hope in life, if you believe there is a hope, then you'll have a reason to try, because if you don't have hope, then why would you try? There's no point. I mean, you're just doing things randomly for random outcomes. And so hope in this sense is important. You need to be able to hope in greater things. You need to be able to hope in the goodness of God. You need to be able to hope in the promises of God, in the things that you haven't seen yet, but believe will come to pass. Hope is important, and you need a reason to try, because the more you try, the more you succeed. If you don't try at all, you'll never succeed. But if you try and you fail a few times, that's fine, because eventually you'll succeed. Knock on the door will be open. God will not allow you to continue trying and to continue to put the work in without receiving the fruits of your labor. Foolishness can obviously cause you to do a lot of work in vain, but at some point, God's going to reveal to you what's going wrong, and He's going to help you. He's not going to. He sees our life through our own eyes. He's living our lives with us. He feels all of our pain. He feels all of our failures and how that feels to us. And in those moments of brokenheartedness, God will help you, and He will reveal truth to you. And so, the more you try, the more you will succeed. That, I believe, is the truth. And so I'll move on from this one. I think that explains it pretty well. Number 38. Intentions are important when you're trying to become less selfish. Intend to do good and be good in all your ways to avoid trouble. This is another one that I have forgotten some of the meaning of. I know when I wrote this, I had a very particular meaning in mind, and that meaning escapes me now, but I will try to define this at least a little bit. Intentions are important when you're trying to be less selfish. Intend to do good and be good in all your ways to avoid trouble. You know, we're not always able to do good. We can try to do good, but sometimes things can fall on our head, and sometimes we have the wrong idea of what good is. But I think this really goes back to the previous one. And in fact, you know, it's kind of funny now that I'm thinking about it, how as I read these, a lot of times the ones that follow a statement, the little one-liners I've written here that will follow a previous one-liner will kind of expand upon or complement the one before it, which is pretty cool, because that's kind of how Proverbs works too. If you read Proverbs, you always want to read the proverb before and the proverb after, because a lot of times they complement each other and they kind of work together. And so this is kind of how this has worked out as well. Not intentionally. I didn't try to do this. It's just how it worked out, you know, probably because I was wrestling with things in my life, and these things didn't just go away overnight. I would think about them, and I would gain new revelations and extra revelations over these. And I think that, you know, the Spirit was moving through me as I wrote these and writing them in a beautiful way that reflects the word that has already been written. So it really does kind of complement the last statement, in that if you try to do good, even if you're not able to do good effectively, in the act of trying to do good, and the act of trying to cleanse your intentions, realizing that maybe you don't have the best intentions, that your intentions may not come from a place that you want them to come from. This is discovered through looking at yourself honestly, and looking at, you know, one of the earlier statements that I made, you know, manifest yourself and then observe who you are. Through doing that, you will come to understand who you are and how your actions actually affect people. So, for example, you might try to help someone by giving them hard truths in their moment of trouble, by giving them tough love. And your intentions may be good, but the effect of that may not be so great. That may not be what they need in the moment. But the more that you intend to do good, in spite of, you know, these hiccups and mistakes along the way, the more you will come to understand the right way, because you'll get bad results. You'll ask yourself, why did I get a bad result? And the Spirit will reveal to you what the right way is. And so intentions are important. Intend to do good and be good in all of your ways to avoid trouble. Okay, moving on. Number 39. This is another very short one. It says, drugs cause loose morals. Drugs cause loose morals. I don't even think much of an explanation is needed for this one. I say that a lot, but in this case, you can really deduce this very easily. If you are doing any sort of drug that is illegal or that is abusive towards your body, not beneficial, not in a medicinal way, not in a way that is helpful. And when I say medicinal, I mean you have an actual physical ailment or mental ailment that the drug is helping treat. And I look at these things as a temporary thing and something you should not lie to yourself about. So a lot of people will call things medicinal when they are really not. I think we all know what we're talking about here, cannabis. A lot of people will call it medicinal, but really they're just using it recreationally. And I do think there is a place for cannabis as a recreational thing. God made it for a reason, but that's not how it's being used. And so I would actually categorize cannabis, and with this statement that drugs cause loose morals, I believe cannabis causes loose morals also, when used in that way, when used in an impure way. And I think all drugs do this, from the simplest of things to the more advanced things. When you're abusing them, when you're using them in an impure way. It causes loose morals because you're doing something that in your spirit and in your conscience you know is wrong on some level. You cannot continue to do drugs and not be convicted on some level unless you've already been convicted and you've already turned that off. I mean, eventually the conviction will leave you if you turn it off enough times. But at some point you had conviction. At some point you had a voice in your head that said, maybe this is not good. And you may even get paranoid or whatever. Then that's also a form of conviction. And when you decide to turn that off and continue doing it anyway, what it does is it opens you up to doing the exact same thing with other things. And so you will excuse other behavior, and you will... If you observe yourself as you go down these paths, you'll notice how things kind of slide. You'll notice how things tend to slide out of control. It starts very small, just like many things. Many forms of evil start very small. They start almost harmless, but not quite harmless. And as you go down the paths of these evil roads, you will see that you start excusing things that you didn't used to excuse, and you start making excuses for things you didn't used to make excuses for, and you start allowing things you didn't used to allow. And over months and months of time of this happening, if you look back on your life before versus where you are now, you'll notice how things started small, but now there's a great change in you. Now you're quite different from how you used to be. Now you're doing quite a few things that you didn't used to do. And the small things reveal the big things. We are the small things that we do. We are the small habits that we formed over time. That's who we become. The things we do day in and day out shape us into something new. And this can be done for good or for bad. And so this is why, one of many reasons why I believe drugs are wrong, and that you shouldn't do them, because it causes loose morals. And again, I try to give you reasons why for things, not just to say, oh, this is wrong, don't do it. It's kind of hard to do that if you don't have a reason why. I try to give you a reason why, and it's pretty logical and easy to understand why drugs cause loose morals. I hope I've explained that well for you. Moving on, number 40. The Spirit is truth. Discover the truth in your own spirit. The Spirit is truth. Discover the truth in your own spirit. I actually have a note for this one. And this is one of the few ones that I had like an inkling for when I wrote this down. I wrote this down in October of 2023. I had an inkling of this. I had like an idea in mind, and it's like I had the outer perimeter of the idea kind of mapped out. I knew that this was true, but I didn't quite know why, and I didn't quite understand the full meaning of it. I just knew that I had to write it down. And so here's my note on this, and then I'll tell you where I am now, because I've actually come to understand what this means. And it's kind of interesting looking back, because it shows that I was on the right track, because even though I didn't fully understand this, what I wrote was true. So what the note here says is, I don't know what this means yet. Something like the flesh bogs us down with feelings such as tiredness, lust, sadness, etc., which affects our output. But when we look inside and go beyond the flesh, if we imagine ourselves without a body, or the sensation of tiredness, etc., such as what we'd be in heaven, we can imagine our true selves, whether our spirit is good or bad. And so my idea behind this kind of roundabout explanation is, if you examine your spirit, if you examine who you would be in heaven, right? So like in this world, we have desires. We have fleshly desires. We have biological mechanisms in us that cause certain things: hunger, sadness, anger, lust, all kinds of things. And these are things that we won't necessarily feel in heaven, or we will feel them in a different way, in a more pure way, the way that they're meant to be felt. And so if you imagine yourself without these worldly desires bogging your body down, if you imagine yourself as free as a bird, as free as a spirit, outside of your body, outside of any sort of biological inclinations of hunger or anything, if you imagine yourself outside of that and who you would be without those desires, that reveals your true spirit, whether your spirit is good or bad. And so that's one way that this can be meant. But when I say the spirit is truth, I've actually come to understand this as something else entirely, because we are a triune being, as I've explained before. We are a body, a soul, and a spirit. We are made in the image of God, because God is a triune being. He is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the body can have trauma, pain, and things that it deals with that needs to be overcome, as can the soul, as can the spirit. But the spirit is unique in that the spirit is outside of time, and it is outside of the limitations of distance and all these concepts that, and all these rules on earth that we are bound by. And the spirit can be broken, but the spirit is ultimately aligned with God. It ultimately craves the things of God. And so as you begin to open yourself to the things of God, and to pray and to read the Bible and to try to understand what Jesus and Christianity and all this is all about, to try to understand the truth, your spirit will speak to you. The spirit loves truth. The spirit seeks truth. It fills the spirit and it heals the spirit when truth is discovered and truth is spoken. And so that's what this means when I say the spirit is truth. And discover the truth in your own spirit. What moves your spirit? What makes your spirit come alive? What fills you with life, a feeling of life? Discover these things. Discover these things. And so I will leave that one there, and we will move on to number 41. So number 41, a man must have the ability to become unstoppable, to rise above himself and awaken to something greater. And I'll go ahead and read the notes for this one too, because I think the notes do explain this very well. The first note says, if you don't have this, find something that awakens this in you. Some ambition, some calling, something to get you out of bed, to keep you focused on a higher level, on a long-term goal. It will make you better in almost every way. Awakening purpose in yourself will always make you better. Awakening purpose in yourself is a very, very powerful thing. Awakening purpose in yourself can actually radically transform you instantly. If your purpose is suddenly revealed to you, if someone was to come and tell you, hey, God wrote this about you in your book, you're actually destined for this great act, that purpose would wake you up to who you truly are, and it would wake you up to all the lies you told yourself about yourself, all the ways that you've been in the dark up until now, because you didn't understand your purpose before, but now you do. Before, you were full of lies about yourself, because that's what the enemy does. The enemy tells you lies about yourself. Failure causes you to reinforce those lies. And just the mismanagement of emotions, the mismanagement of sadness and anger and bitterness and all these things causes you to become a worse person, a person who builds up lies in their hearts and tells yourself lies about your body, about your mind, about your abilities, that then become very powerful reinforcement mechanisms that keep you locked in to a false identity and to a false destiny. But if someone were to reveal to you beyond any shadow of a doubt, no, this is actually what was written about you, and this is actually who you are going to become no matter what. If someone were to put it in that term for you, you would suddenly snap out of it, and you would realize, oh, this is who I truly am. All those other things were lies. You would start renouncing all those lies, and an instant transformation would take place, because now you are renouncing lies that you told yourself about yourself with as much, if not more, conviction as you used when you said those lies in the first place. The same conviction that gave power to those lies, that gave power to the ability of those lies to transform you in bad ways, is the same conviction that purpose reveals, that allows you to overcome those lies and to speak true things over yourself rather than lies. And so this is what I mean when I say that you have to find something that awakens this in you, this ability to become unstoppable. And again, I didn't understand this at the time. I've only come to understand what I just mentioned, the things I literally just said. Those things I only came to understand a few months ago. This was written almost over 2 years ago at this point. So I didn't even understand this fully when I wrote it. The Spirit was truly moving in me as I wrote this. And I know I keep saying that, but I'm amazed by it. And so that's why I keep saying it. I'm just amazed that this was happening, and I didn't realize it until these moments where I'm speaking it now. But to get back to the point, if you don't have this ability to become unstoppable, find something that awakens this in you, some ambition, some calling, something to get you out of bed, to keep you focused on a higher level, on a long-term goal. It will make you better in almost every way. That's a great note for this one that I think very much encapsulates what I'm saying here. But the second note says, well, this is more of a personal thing, but it says, I feel this in myself. At the time I was working a job that was very difficult. It was very mentally taxing. It took a lot of willpower to continue to do this job and to do it well. It was a sales job, and so it was commission, so it required that I be at my best all the time if I wanted to make as much as I could. And if I wanted to be as good as I could be, I had to take it seriously and put my best foot forward in spite of the difficulty. And so the second note says, I feel this in myself with my job. It's difficult, it's uncomfortable, it's a sacrifice, but I'm driven to do it because I want to become a strong man. I want to become a better man. I want to become a man worthy of a family. And so I was desiring a family at this time, and I felt like to have a family, I need to be worthy of a family. I need to be a man who's strong, who's capable of providing, and all these other things. And so that's where that note comes from. But really, I think that first note explains it best. And what the point that I went into with purpose is so important. You must awaken this purpose within you. Because if you are in a dead place where you don't know what your purpose is, and you're kind of floating through life, and you don't feel this strong desire for anything, you just kind of feel dead. You just kind of feel like nothing brings you joy, nothing awakens that spirit within you that makes you want to put your best foot forward, that makes you want to become greater than you are right now, to awaken to something greater. If you don't have anything like this in your life, you need to discover it, especially as a man. And a man must have the ability to become unstoppable. A man becomes unstoppable when he awakens to his purpose. Because if you have a purpose and you're convicted in that purpose, you will do whatever it takes to reach that purpose. Nothing will hold you back. You will not be deterred by failure. You will not be deterred by difficulty. You will push through every difficulty, and you will push through every failure. And this, you become unstoppable. And so it's the purpose really that makes you unstoppable. And so I encourage you, discover what your purpose is. And if you can't think of it, if you can't discover it, then ask God to reveal it to you, and he will. And ask him diligently. Keep asking him over and over and over and over until he reveals it to you. Bug him if you can. The Bible even says this. It's kind of funny. The Bible tells you to bother God with the things you want. It tells you to bug him. It really does. And it says this in the scripture that says, who among you, if a neighbor came to your door in the middle of the night asking for food because he was hungry, would turn him away? And what if he kept bothering you over and over and over about this? I need food, I need food, I need food. I'm kind of butchering this. This is not exactly what the scripture says, but the scripture is very clear in the idea behind this. The scripture is very clear because it actually ends this parable with the statement that likewise, keep asking God, and in your persistence, God will give you what you've asked for. But it basically says, if you keep bothering your neighbor about something, eventually he's going to give in because he wants to stop being bothered by you. He wants you to go away. So he wants you to stop. Leave me alone. Fine, have it. I'm done. Like, go away. And it's the same with God. If you keep bugging him about something, eventually he's going to say, okay, fine, I'll give it to you. Like, I wasn't going to give it to you at this time. I was going to give it to you at a later time, but since you keep bugging me, fine, I'll go ahead and give it to you. And it's kind of, and maybe, you bugging him about it was what he wanted you to do in the first place. He wanted you to show him that you're convicted about it, that you really do want it. And it wasn't until you showed him that you really do want it that he gives it to you. So for whatever reason, God honors us bugging him. He does want us to do it. And he says it very clearly in his word. So bug him about it. Ask him, God, what's my purpose? Ask him over and over until he reveals it to you. And he will reveal it to you. He'll show you your strengths. And he'll show you what makes you come alive. And that's a beautiful thing. I don't believe this is a very strong statement that I'm about to make. And I will stand by it because I believe it's true. I don't believe there's too many things in life that you can seek that are greater than purpose. Because purpose is what will wake you up. Purpose is what will allow you to become unstoppable. Purpose is what will drive you to fulfill what is written about you in your personal scrolls, which is basically the destiny that God laid out for you. It is the works that God put in front of you that you should walk in them. Awakening to that, whatever that thing is that God wrote about you, I don't think there's many things in life that can be greater than that besides maybe our salvation. Besides truly understanding who Jesus is and understanding what the sacrifice was about and truly receiving it and accepting his sacrifice and accepting Jesus into your heart. Besides that, I don't think there's much better than discovering and cultivating your purpose. And so I would put this at the top of your priority list. If you don't know what your purpose is, I would place this at the very top, finding out what this purpose is, because it will change your life in the most radical way, more so than almost anything else can. And it will awaken a strength in you that pretty much nothing else can. And if you know your purpose already, but you're not walking in it the way that you should, then ask God to convict you of this and ask God to lead you down a path that will awaken you to the urgency of your own purpose. And so I think I'll end there. I think I've explained this in every way that I should. I did want to take some extra time on this one because of how important it is. Most of these I will go through very quickly, as you've seen, but this one I have specifically taken time on because of how important it is. I don't want to leave much unsaid when it comes to this one. So I hope that this blesses you, and I in fact I will go beyond hope, and I will say that I know that this will bless you. I have no doubt that this will bless you if you truly take on what I've said. And so with that, I will move on, and we will hit number 42. Number 42 says, well, let me back up a second. This is actually one of the few things I've wrote that did not originally come from me, but it was something that I liked so much that I wanted to include it in this document because I found truth in it. And so this came from Modern Wisdom. So I can't remember the name of the host. It's been a long time since I've watched it, but this came from the host of Modern Wisdom. He's the one who said this, and I think he actually got it from someone else and kind of phrased it a different way. So everything kind of goes back to someone else anyway. But what number 42 says is, this is what hard feels like. This is where most people stop, and this is why they don't win. These two statements justify things being hard. And then there's also a note to this one that says, there's true gold to be found on the other side of hard, on the other side of difficulty. And so if you're doing something difficult in life and you're finding it difficult to continue, and you're reaching a point where you've gone part of the way, but you're having trouble going the rest of the way in whatever you're called to do, in whatever your purpose is, and you've kind of reached the end of your gas tank, I think this is a very good statement to kind of embody. This is what difficulty feels like. It feels exactly like what you're feeling right now. And this is exactly where most people stop. Most people stop exactly where you're trying to stop right now. They're trying to stop at the same place you stop, because we're all the same at the end of the day. We're all the same. We all have the same experiences. And most people are going to stop when things get difficult. That's just how we are. But most people stop here, and this is why they don't win. This is why they don't come into their full purpose. And these two statements justify things being hard. And if you can push past this, you can reach the other side, and you can find the gold, the rare thing that people miss, the true reward for all your efforts. The true reward for all your efforts, the thing about your efforts, right? And this is a well-known thing. I'm not just saying something that I made up. This is something that is well studied and well understood. The true reward for your efforts is not felt in a way that is incremental. You don't get 1% of the way towards your destiny, and then you get 1% of the reward, and then you get 5% of the way, and you get 5% of the reward. It doesn't work this way. A lot of times you may get 5% of the way, 0 reward, 10% of the way, 0 reward, 25% of the way, 5% reward, 40% of the way, 10% of the reward. But then you reach like a threshold where things become very difficult. And when you push past that threshold to the other side, and you push past difficulty to the other side of difficult, to the other side of hard, and you get 55, 60% of the way, that 10 or 15% reward that you had before is now 60% reward. It happens all at once. Suddenly, someone shouts you out, or someone promotes you, or you get elevated to a higher spot, or some inexplicable blessing comes your way that transforms your life, or some transformation happens in you that happens and it transforms your life literally in an instant, and you are instantly a different person. That happened to me. I had an instant transformation. I mentioned this in the first video at the Empire of the Sun concert, and later on, I had an instant transformation when I heard about the things of the spirit and how the spirit world works. That was an instant transformation, and I became a different person instantly, and I have not changed since. It was a transformation that I never went back on. And so this is what will happen to you as you are persistent in your calling and you're persistent on the path that has been laid out for you. If you are consistent in it, the efforts that you started with, where you started, does not show up until later. So those efforts are being built up, and the fruits of those labors are being built up. And even if no one is recognizing those fruits yet, that building up process is also transforming you. And eventually you reach a spot where you have all this behind you, all of this work behind you that is literally lifting you up and supporting you and pushing you forward. The past things that you did will give you momentum for the future, and it will give you blessings for the future, and it will give you an elevated place to stand in the future. All of your past works you stand on later, and as you start to stand in a higher and higher place, you start to be seen by more people. And so how do you pinpoint where the success happened? Did the success happen when you had one brilliant moment where you said something in a meeting, or you said something in a video that went viral or resonated with your team, and then your manager promoted you and gave you a higher calling, or God promoted you and gave you a higher calling, or whatever happened? Did the transformation happen because of that one statement, or did the transformation happen because of all the work that happened before that statement? Well, it's actually both. The statement couldn't have been made if you weren't transformed by all the work you did previously. And likewise, all the work you did previously is what helped you transform into the person who could have made that statement at the time that it was needed. You had an opportunity, and you were prepared for that opportunity by all the work you did before. So the work that had no reward before, now all of a sudden the reward is realized all at once. This is how progress works. This is how success works. And so if you're not seeing success, but you know that what you're doing is part of your purpose, then don't stop. Don't stop. Success is not the goal. Success can never be the goal. If you are doing things because you want to be successful, your focus is in the wrong place. And when you're not successful, you'll give up. But if you're doing things because you want to achieve your purpose, and because there is a spirit or a calling within you, that the action of doing the calling within you is the reward in itself. By fulfilling what you know to be your purpose, you feel a sense of fulfillment that rewards you in and of itself inherently, in a way that doesn't require outcomes. That's a better place to come from. So do things because it's your calling, and do things because you find a joy in it, not because you want the reward at the end. The reward, by seeking the reward, you actually lose part of you'll get some of the reward, but you will lose part of the reward also, because you are seeking the reward and not the fulfillment of your calling. But if you seek first the fulfillment of your calling, then you will get the whole reward, and you'll get a greater reward by not seeking the reward. It's really incredible. And I have proof of this, just in a small way in my own life. when I was in sales, I used to teach sales, and I would tell people, look, the goal that you need to come into this job with is not the goal to make a lot of money. If you come into with the goal to make a lot of money, you'll make a lot of money, but you won't make as much as if you come in with a better goal. The goal that you should come in with is to do the best job you possibly can, and to manifest yourself and put yourself forward in the best way you possibly can. And if you do that, you will actually make more money than if you were just seeking money as the primary. And this is something that gave me a lot of power in sales, is because I never took on a sales job with the goal of making money. I knew that if I did my best, the money would come. I never had to worry about money because every time I tried my best, it just came automatically. And so I always just tried to do my best. I always just tried to make myself better and better and better, and to always be present in the moment and to give all of my effort as if I was giving to God, as if I was working for God. And in doing this, I was able to excel in ways that other people weren't able to excel. And when people started to take on what I was saying, they would start to excel in a better way as well. And so just like this applies in the physical, with physical things, it also applies with spiritual things such as our purpose. And so, yes, expanding on purpose was number 42 there. Like I said, these kind of lead one into another. And even though this one wasn't written to me, it spoke to my spirit at the time, and it does apply to the previous one as well. So there's true gold to be found on the other side of difficulty. So don't give up. Don't give up. I encourage you. Don't give up. Number 43. Build yourself up so you can pour yourself out. Build yourself up so you can pour yourself out. I will read the notes on this one first. So it says, the first note says, it's okay to build and accumulate wealth and success, but you can't take it with you. Ensure your life creates a positive impact on the world. And number 2, it says, number 2 says, the second note says, with finances, this means giving as you gain, very important. And giving causes that, I actually kind of have a grammar mistake here. Let me fix this so I can read this. Okay, I'll read this now that I've fixed the grammar. The second note says, with finances, this means giving as you gain. And giving causes you to properly use the money to do something truly meaningful. Perhaps this is the function of tithes. So tithes have a function, right? It's not just, God doesn't tell you to give because he wants your money. Or even because the church needs it to build. Those are not the only reasons. Tithes are there because if you give as you gain, if you demonstrate generosity in what God has given you, God will give you more. And so the giving that you do comes back to you. Now, you have to have your heart purified in this also. You can't give only for the purpose of gaining. That may even work. If you give only for the purpose of gaining, it very well may still work. And in fact, it does work in a lot of cases, I'm sure. But it's much better to give from a place of purity, from a place of thankfulness. You're thankful to God for what he's given you, and so you're giving back to God what is rightfully his, which 10% of what you have is rightfully his. As long as you're able, don't put yourself in a position that harms you. Because if you give begrudgingly, the Bible says this, if you give begrudgingly, it's not going to be blessed. It's not going to be good. If you give out of a place of compulsion, it's not going to be good, because you'll come to resent it later and you'll stop being a given person. It'll hurt your ability to give from a pure heart. And so it's important to preserve the purity of your giving and to do it from the right place. You can do it partially because you understand that God will give back to you. That's fine. You know that the giver is blessed. The one who blesses is blessed. And those who give receive. But you do it because you want to be someone who pours themselves out. To go back to the original statement, build yourself up so you can pour yourself out. This is the purpose of seeking success and financial gain. It's not so that you can enjoy good things. While that's fine to enjoy good things, God has given us good things to enjoy as the fruit of our labor. That's okay. But that's not the only reason for it. The primary reason, I believe, for growing your wealth is so that you can bless others, so that you can bless your family, so you can bless your lineage, so that you can bless those around you, so that you can bless the needy, so that you can give to God's kingdom, so that you can build up God's kingdom and be a part of God's kingdom. I mean, how great of a thing is it to be a part of God's own kingdom and the building of his own kingdom? That is a great honor. And so you should come to God with your giving from a place of thankfulness. Thank you, God, for the opportunity that you've given me to be a part of this, to be a part of what you're doing in this church or in this cause or this charity or this whatever. Thank you, God, for letting me be a part of this and for the spiritual blessings that you're going to give me as a result of this. It is an honor for me to be a part of this, and I'm grateful for that. If you come to your giving from that place, watch what happens. That's all I'll say. Watch what happens. So build yourself up so you can pour yourself out. And again, this kind of does relate to the previous one, and the next one I'm about to read relates to this one as well. They all tie together. Well, not all of them, but this little row here definitely ties together. So number 44, you cannot pour out for others that which you do not have yourself. So it really just further explains the previous one. Build yourself up so you can pour yourself out. But you can't pour out for others that which you don't have for yourself. And so if you want to pour out love and goodness and joy and encouragement for others, you need to find these things within yourself. You need to find a joy within your own heart. And there's many ways to, I've spoken about joy before. There's ways to invoke joy. Worship being one of the primary ways, gratefulness being another, finding things to be grateful for. And so if you want to pour out for others, just realize you have to work on yourself first. You have to build yourself up first before you can help others. Prioritize yourself first before you prioritize others if you're coming from a place of emptiness and you're coming from a place of need. This is a temporary thing. In the spiritual eternity and in the long term, you should put others before yourself. But you can't put others before yourself if you haven't yet built yourself up enough to be able to do that. So before you're able to put others before yourself, because that's a very difficult, to put others before yourself is very difficult. It's a godly thing, and it's a godly sacrifice that's hard to achieve. So how do you achieve hard things? Well, you achieve hard things through skill, through practice, through wisdom and learning and understanding and applying the wisdom. So this is all building yourself up. The prayers, the worship, the understanding of the fruits of the Spirit, the understanding of yourself, all of the things I've spoken about throughout this series. These are building you up. These are teaching you things. These are helping you grow in the Spirit. These are giving you wisdom. These are giving you understanding. And so you need to gain these things, and you need to gain these characteristics. And you need to develop your own natural character into the best version of you that you can possibly become. And you need to build yourself up to a point where you're capable and where you have excess enough to be able to pour out for others. An empty cup cannot fill another. That's actually from a song from We Came as Romans, who started out as like a Christian band. They had a lot of Christian and godly philosophies behind their lyrics, but they unfortunately transformed into something else. The world got to them, and it's sad to see. But their first couple albums, or maybe their first 3 albums, had a lot of godly lyrics behind them and a lot of godly messages behind them. And one of their lyrics says, "An empty cup cannot fill another." And that stuck with me. It stuck with me since I heard it forever. And so this is kind of paying homage to them in a way, and it is true. So remember, an empty cup cannot fill another. You cannot pour out for others that which you do not have yourself. So fill your own cup first, and then pour out for others. As you've been given, give to others. All right, number 45. Number 45, become an agent of God's love. Be the proof of his love towards others. And the note for this one's pretty short. It just kind of expounds on it a little bit. It says you can become an agent of God's mercy, compassion, etc. also. So it's not just love that you can become an agent of. You can become an agent of all kinds of things, mercy, compassion, whatever. So, but I think love is the highest calling. And so what do I mean when I say become an agent of God's love? Well, what I mean is actually the second part of this statement. It says, be the proof of his love towards others. So there's a lot of misery and depression and anger and division and all kinds of things in this world. And these things bring a society down. It brings them down and down and down. It spirals them down a drain. And the drain leads directly to hell. That's where it leads. And so there's very many agents of darkness in the world who are trying to drag people down, who are trying to drag people down to their level, people down to their level of misery and hatred and anger. And they are very effective at this. And these agents are placed in all areas of government. They're placed in all areas of business. And they are placed pretty much everywhere you look. They're there tempting and dragging people down. And so I thought about the opposite of this, and I thought about how does God's love manifest into the world? Well, he can do it directly if he chooses, but that's not typically how God does things. God almost always uses a person to do things. That's what you'll notice if you observe the history, if you observe the Old Testament, the Bible, and how things happened in those times, how God made things happen in those times. You'll see that God almost always, he almost never did things directly. It was almost always through a person that he did things. And so you can become an agent of God's love. You can purpose yourself to do that. You can be the proof of his love towards others. So people may think that God is cruel and unjust because of suffering, but you can prove that he's loving and compassionate through acts of love and through acts of sacrifice for others. How many nurses who their job was to help people recover from physical trauma, from mental trauma, and help them learn to walk again, and help them get out of their bitterness over their difficult situation because of the love that they manifested and the care they put in spite of how the person was treating them, in spite of how the patient was smarting off at them or giving them a bad attitude or whatever. How many nurses and witnesses have overlooked that and poured out God's love on those people? And because they overcame hatred and anger with love, a greater thing was able to come out of it, and transformation and recovery was able to come out of it. How many of those nurses and witnesses and people in other fields and people that arrived at the right time for someone, how many times have they proven the love of God and transformed someone's idea of who God is? They've proven that it's possible. So if they've proven that it's possible, then we can all become that. We can all become that and transform the whole world. And you can be a part of that too. God's called you to be a part of that. He's written about you in his scrolls. He wrote a purpose for you. Your purpose may be to donate your time to people and help people recover from sicknesses and injury and trauma and traumatic experiences. Your purpose may be to give. Your purpose may be all kinds of things. There's all kinds of purposes, but the point of it is that you can manifest God's love in reality, and you can purpose yourself specifically to be an agent of his love. I like the term agent because it's like agent suggests a mission. It suggests a purpose, right? And purpose we know is powerful. I've explained that amply. Purpose is powerful. So you can become an agent of God's love, and I think purposing yourself to do that is very powerful. So I would encourage you to do that and start to think of yourself as this in this way. Start to think of yourself as an agent of God's love. That's what you can be if you choose to be it, and God will help you with it if you ask him to help you. And so I will move on here to the number 46. Number 46 says you either have love or you don't. You can figure out who someone is deep down by asking yourself, do they have love? So you can figure out who someone is deep down if you ask yourself, do they have love? And this one is this one is a little difficult to put to words, but it is more of a feeling that you can glean from people. You can ask yourself, does this person have love in their heart? Are they manifesting love? Do they seem like they're capable of manifesting love? And even more pinpointed, do they seem like if you talk to them about the things of love, if you express to them God's love and the beauty of how God's love manifests in the world, if you expressed that to them or showed it to them, would they receive it? Would they be moved by it the way you're moved by it? And you can figure out, okay, does this person have love or not? If they would not be moved by it, if you get the impression, the strong impression, they would not be moved by it, or if you even tell it to them and they're not moved by it, or they give you no reaction, or they give you a cold reaction or a bad reaction, well, that person does not have love. And you either have love or you don't. And if you do not have love, if you're not affected by the things that people tell you that they are touched by, that they perceive as God's love in the world, if you're not moved by those things, you may be someone who doesn't have love. And that's something that you need to address. Because if God's love is not in you, you are in grave, grave danger. Because love is constantly mentioned as one of the most important things. Well, the most important command is to love God with all your heart. And the second command is like it. The second most important command is like it, which is to love others like yourself. And so you need to have love. It's the most important command. And love brings many good fruits. And so if you don't have love, or if someone close to you does not have love, and you've recognized this in them or recognized this in yourself, pray for God to help you to love him more, and pray for God to manifest love in your heart, in your spirit, and in your soul, and in your mind. Pray this specifically and be consistent about it. Continue to knock and the door will be open for you. God will transform you into someone who has a heart of stone, into someone who has a heart of flesh. He will transform your heart if you ask him to. So just because you don't have love doesn't mean you're doomed, doesn't mean you're anything. It just means you need to address it. And if you choose to address it and choose to be diligent about it and place importance on it, you will be able to overcome it. And so I encourage you in that. You either have love, either have love or you don't. Try to understand if you do or you do not. Try to understand if the people around you have love or they don't. And if they don't or you don't, pray about it. And that's my advice to you. Okay. Number 47. So number 47 talks about something that I've talked about all throughout my videos. It's something I've repeated repeatedly. So I'm glad we're getting to this one now because it is very important. And as I was reading the notes before I started this video, I was excited to read this one because I think I put it very well, and I'm excited to share that with you. So number 47 says, keep yourself balanced. Try to find true center and stay balanced in being balanced. Balance is the optimal state for nearly everything. Balance is the optimal state for nearly everything. And I'm going to go ahead and read the notes because the notes are very, very good. They express some deeper ideas about this that are not visible on the surface. Because what I said there, that one-liner, there's more to it that you won't glean from the surface unless you're either very insightful or it's explained to you. And so I think this explanation here is very good. So the first explanation is it says, being balanced in being balanced. So being balanced in balance is not opting to choose the middle ground for every situation. This leads to ruin and is a form of extremism. You can see this extremism in certain false religions, such as, I won't name them by name. I'm not trying to create division here. But there's certain religions that put a strong focus on balance, and they take this to an extreme that causes them to be lukewarm and causes them to miss the mark. And it's unfortunate because they are very devoted people. And it is a shame and it's sad to see someone so devoted miss the mark. And so I hope this helps you. If you're someone who tries to take the center ground at all times and has made that a spiritual thing, I'm here to tell you that is a form of extremism that leads to ruin. And I hope this explanation helps you. So I'll continue reading this first explanation. It says, balance means to be balanced where it's called for, which is most situations, but you must also use wisdom to determine where true balance lies. You can't rely solely on external norms to find balance because that road leads to hell. You know, that road leads to hell where you're relying on the societal norms to determine where balance lies. Well, let's just love everyone the way they are. Let's not tell anyone they're wrong ever. Everything's permissible. You know, if someone wants to murder someone, well, maybe that's just their belief. They believe that that's okay. Like, you can get really extreme with this and this acceptance of everyone. Not everything should be accepted, and some things that you accept are actually harming people. And so it's not okay to accept everything. And so that's what I mean when I say relying on external norms to find balance leads to hell, because the societal idea of what balance is not correct. It's not the correct balance. Balance is a form of justice, and the world does not know true justice because the world does not know what is truly good, the world mostly understands what is truly evil and walks in the ways of evil. And so true balance requires righteousness, and it requires good judgment, and it requires justice. So getting a little bit lost in the weeds here, but I'm gonna bring it all back around here in a bit. So continuing, it says, you can't rely solely on external norms to find balance because that road leads to hell. Understanding this aspect of balance is in itself true balance. And then the second note says, balance is not simply being too much of one thing. It's okay to be eccentric, but you must counterbalance that with the opposite extreme in other ways. This is art, symmetry of behavior. I find this to be a very beautiful statement. Symmetry of behavior. You know, if you're eccentric and extreme in one way, I think it's actually really, really good if you have that extreme about you. If that's how God naturally made you, you have a certain zeal to you. I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you even better. It's great to have zeal. It's also great to have, I'm trying to articulate the opposite of zeal, like an opposite, counterbalance to zeal. It's great to have zeal, but it's also great to have patience and understanding and serenity and the ability to enter a state of peace and to bring peace to others through a peaceful mode of being, a peaceful mannerisms, a peaceful almost aura about you. Not that I mean that in some sort of new age way. I just mean like having people can pick up on your vibe. If you're a person who has a lot of zeal, then try to develop also a sense of peace about you. Try to learn how to manifest serenity and a way to bring people peace and comfort and a way to calm people down if they're upset. Because you have one side of the extreme, you have this zeal that makes you very passionate and it comes out in a way that's loud and charismatic, and that's a great thing, but that's not always what's called for. So if you can actually train yourself to be on the opposite end of that spectrum and to get good at the opposite end of that spectrum as well, that's where your balance will lie. And you'll have the balance that is found, right? You'll have the balance that is found on two ends of the extremes. And there is symmetry of behavior in that. And that symmetry of behavior is art. A lot of art is symmetry. And I believe you can have symmetry of behavior, which manifests into a beautiful work of art, which is your personality. And so this is what true balance is. It's taking whoever you are, developing that to the fullest, going to the extreme with that as far as is necessary, as far as you feel called to go. And then as you realize who you are and the extreme elements of your personality, and when I say extreme, what I really mean is the particular gifts that you have that are more pronounced than in other people, that you have a loudness about you that other people don't have. You have a passion about you that other people don't have when you speak about a certain thing. Manifest that to the fullest and take that as far as you can. But then recognize what the opposite of that is. What is the opposite gift that counterbalances that? Try to develop that also, and then you become symmetrical and beautiful. Your personality becomes so well-rounded that you become unstoppable, essentially. You become a beautiful person, really. So this is what true balance is. And so what I want to do now, I want to actually read over initial saying, and I want to read over the first note again and then go ahead and back and explain that and bring it all back around. So I'm going to read it again. It says, keep yourself balanced, try to find true center, and stay balanced in being balanced. Balance is the optimal state for nearly everything. Being balanced and being balanced is not opting to choose the middle ground for every situation. This leads to ruin and is a form of extremism. It means to be balanced where called for, which is most situations, but you must use wisdom to determine where true balance lies. You can't rely solely on external norms to find balance because that road leads to hell. Understanding this aspect of balance is in itself true balance. And so I think it's explained pretty extensively there, but the main point of this is that balance is not quite what you think it is. Balance is a beautiful thing that I think should be sought after, because you want to be a well-rounded person who sees things clearly. You don't want to see things through your own lens, through the lens of your own reality, because you have your own reality that has been built up in you over time. You have things that have been reinforced in you over time, belief systems that you know to be true beyond a doubt for yourself. Doesn't necessarily mean it's true for another person, because they have a different set of reality, a different upbringing, a different personality, and what worked for you may not work for them. And so you need a balance in the sense that you need to understand that everyone's coming from a different vantage point, and you need to be able to accept people where they are and to help them where they are. And that is the balance that I speak of. So that balance is the ability to see other perspectives. It's the ability to administer justice, to see the truth of where someone's coming from and to give accurate judgment towards them. And I don't mean judging them as a person. I mean judging how you should be towards them and what they need from you. That is what I mean by balance. And this is a beautiful thing that I think everyone should seek out, because when you do this, you gain wisdom, you gain understanding, and you gain clarity of reality. You can see reality more clearly when you're not looking at it through your own lens, through your own gifts, through your own extreme development, the ways that you've developed yourself to be extreme in your gifts. You're no longer looking at things only through that lens, but you've obtained a fuller picture of reality, and therefore you can give a fuller explanation to people that will help them in a more full way. And this is why balance is important. This is why I emphasize it so much, because it's been so important in my life in understanding the truth and in seeing reality clearly. And I recognize this pretty early on, and I kept seeing it pop up as a theme, and it's why I've spent so much time on this one, because just like purpose, I believe balance is also very important. Not quite as important, because not everyone is called to be balanced. Some people are called only to be extreme, and that's fine. They have a special gift and they shouldn't change. But I would say most people can benefit from being balanced. The vast majority of people can benefit from it. So this brings us to the very last one for the day, number 48. And number 48 says, wisdom is knowledge multiplied by goodness. And so I'll read the notes on this one once again, because again, the notes are very good in explaining what I mean by this. Excuse me. So the first note says, worldly wisdom lacks goodness. True wisdom incorporates goodness into knowledge. So the wisdom of the world is more along the lines of how to succeed and how to be cutthroat and how to step on someone else to get somewhere faster. How to effectively lie to someone, how to effectively deceive people, how to effectively convince someone of things even if it's not true, how to use manipulation effectively. This is worldly wisdom. And worldly wisdom lacks goodness. But true wisdom incorporates wisdom into knowledge. And that's why wisdom is knowledge multiplied by goodness. And this is why I kind of held on to that initial statement of wisdom that I made early on, because I like this one a little bit better to describe wisdom, because it describes it in like a mathematical way, which I believe God has, made reality in a mathematical way. We see this with fractals, and we see this with how life is designed. It's math all the way down. And so I like applying math to things if it makes sense. And so wisdom is knowledge multiplied by goodness. So it's a great one to ponder. But I'll continue with my explanations here. I've got two more notes on this one. The second note says, knowing what true knowledge is and what true goodness is also requires the spirit of wisdom and understanding, which can only be received from God. So it's great to know that wisdom is knowledge multiplied by goodness. It's great to know that, but how do you actually manifest that? How do you actually cause that to come about? Because I can tell you to do something, I can tell you how something works, but if I don't tell you how to do it, how useful is it really? And so again, I'm always seeking to tell you how, and why. So how do you know what true knowledge is, and how do you know what true goodness is? Well, the thing is, you can't know this. You can't know this of yourself. You'll never come to the real crux of the matter if you try to do this yourself. The only way to truly understand this is to have that spirit moving through you. You have to manifest, because the title of this series is How to Live and Grow in the Seven Spirits of God. God has seven spirits. I'm going to try to name them, but I'll try to name them. It's the Spirit of the Lord, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, and the Spirit of the fear of the Lord. Let me count those. The Spirit of the Lord, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, and the Spirit of the fear of the Lord. There's one more I'm missing, but that's not the important part. Isn't to name them all. The important part is there is seven spirits of God, and one of the seven spirits of God is the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, and you can ask for this Spirit to be manifest in you. It's something you can ask for, and so the way that you understand what true knowledge is and what true goodness is that you ask God to give you the spirit of wisdom and understanding, and you claim the spirit of wisdom and understanding for yourself. You declare that I manifest and come into alignment with the seven spirits of God, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge, and all the seven spirits. You declare these things over you, and you will be given ideas that are godly ideas, and you'll be given understanding that is godly understanding. And so that is how you manifest true wisdom, is by asking the Spirit to move through you, God's Spirit. That's the how. And so moving on here to the last description of this, which I should have read this first because it does kind of explain it. It says, you can begin by seeking to gain true knowledge, to seek deep truths and meditate on what is true, and to do the same for goodness and what is good. So you can pray specifically for the spirit of knowledge and wisdom and understanding, but you can also just seek to know what is true. You can seek to ponder what is actually true, what is actually wisdom, what are the deep truths of God. And if you actually point this goal and this seeking towards God in that way, this will start to manifest in you automatically as well. But I think it's good to directly ask as well. And so the next part of this says, when this is combined with specific prayers asking for the seven spirits of God, two of which are the spirit of wisdom and understanding, you will find that you seek because the Bible says, I'm sorry, I need to kind of rephrase this with a different inflection. You will find what you seek. You will find what you seek because The Bible says all those who seek will find. And so because I kind of jumped around a little bit, I want to reread that in its entirety so I can bring it together. So the second note says, you can begin by, so let me back up. I'm going to read the initial statement first, and then I'll read that second part because I think it's a good way to tie this together. Number 48, wisdom is knowledge multiplied by goodness. And the second note says, you can begin by seeking to gain true knowledge, to seek deep truths and meditate on what is true, and do the same for goodness and what is good. When this is combined with specific prayers asking for the 7 spirits of God to manifest in you, 2 of which are the spirit of wisdom and understanding, you will find what you seek, because the Bible says all those who seek will find, especially if you're seeking good things. So seek these things out, pray for these things, and you'll be given these things. If you don't understand what wisdom is, if you feel like you lack wisdom, once again, you can ask God and he will give it to you. And when you actually ask specifically for the 7 spirits of God, and you put emphasis on the spirit of wisdom and understanding, I believe it helps even more because you're being more specific. You're using your ability, right, to issue commands, which God has given you. God spoke the world into existence with his word, with words, and we are made in his image. We can speak things into existence through our words, but we need powerful words and we need correct words to do that. There is an order to life and there's an order to reality, and we have to speak true words, and we have to speak the truest words we know how. God honors the rest of it, but we should seek to do it the best way we know how, and I believe there's more power in doing it that way. And so I believe that if you want wisdom, to specifically ask for the 7 spirits of God is a great way to achieve that, and also to ask for the spirit of the fear of the Lord, which I think that might have been the 7th one that I missed. But ask for these things because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So you can ask for all of the spirits of the Lord, all of the spirits of God, and wisdom will come in abundance as a result of that. And so that is where I will end here. I think it's a great place to end because the whole goal of this channel is wisdom, and to gain wisdom and to help you gain wisdom. So I like that we're ending on that note. It just happened to be that way. And I pray that once again, this video has blessed you and has caused you to gain understanding and knowledge and wisdom so that you can grow in the 7 spirits of God and live in the 7 spirits of God so that can be your reality all the time. I hope that I pray that this series helps you achieve that, because if this series helps you achieve that, then I've done my goal, and I've created agents of love that can be sent out into the world and who can change the world. Or rather, God has created that through me. And so that's my prayer for you, is that you gain wisdom and understanding through my words, and that the spirit of wisdom and understanding speaks through me and speaks to you so that you gain from it. And that is my prayer in the name of Jesus. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching.